is James Newman. This is the third video in our Path of the Data class. This is transformations. So transformations are a place where you can, obviously, it's the ETL, it's the T in the ETL, it's transforming the data. In Celonis, it's often creating the event log out of a relational database. And in that situation, you'd be creating a table for the activity log, adding activities to it, things like that. So I'm going to give you a kind of a brief intro into how to create a transformation, what you can do in it, some tips and tricks, and then kind of show you what the outcome is. So right now, I just finished. You just saw it just finished there, the execution. So I was, as I mentioned in the previous video, video 2 of extractions. I demoed that showing a table with no rows. So I redid it here, and so I added about, I think it's about 30 rows to the activity table on our server. And so now in this extraction just finished, you see that we loaded 33 records from the testing test MySQL database. So now that is in the data storage. It's the Vertica SQL database sitting in the cloud. So now what we want to do is create a transformation. The transformation will let us look at the data, edit it, modify it, create new data, things like that. So we're going to add transformation here. So it's creating a new task. It's called, I'm just going to call this sandbox for now. So creating a new task that is classified as a transformation. It brings you right into this SQL kind of editor where you can run code, things like that. And you have a schema explorer over here. So there's going to be multiple schemas. There's always going to be the global scope. And then there's going to be, for this situation, MySQL database. It could be an SAP scope, something like that. And you'd be able to switch between them. So that's just the terminology schema. If you're familiar with SQL, this is all kind of rote, but it's just important to note that that's what it means. So you see the table here, video test with our case key, event time, activity. The Celonis change date, that is added by Celonis. It's the time when that data was extracted and loaded into Celonis. So that can be handy. We've actually used that field to as the activity timestamp. So if you have a field that just gets updated in place and you want to track when it changes, we've used that field to track changes as a change log, basically. So now we can write SQL. And it's going to kind of auto fill there a little bit. And then you just highlight the code that you want to execute, click the execute button. And now we see our in this situation, event log. So we have our case key, event time, activity, Celonis change date. So this is really handy, this SQL editor here. Some things I really like to be able to do with it is they have some Vertica SQL database tables, really handy. So see all the tables. So you can see it goes outside the scope, so all the tables in the Vertica SQL database. So some of our claims data here, you can see it's really handy to know what schema it is, everything like that. And then you can also do from columns. So I can do where table name equals video test, and we'll see these 4 columns pop up as rows here. And this will give you also the type of the data, right? So if you are pulling data that you're not entirely sure what it is, or you're pulling a lot, or you uploaded a CSV, this table will let you see, oh, okay, this is a bar chart, it's a timestamp, etc. So that can be really useful. So I'm just going to save that. Always save it, especially the one big trick that I've learned is that I'll often be programming this, get up, walk away for a couple hours, and then leave this screen open. And if you leave the screen open, you'll be signed in for a while, but if it goes like a certain amount of time, like overnight often, and you'll have other tabs open that are Celonis, you'll get logged out of Celonis. But this screen will stay like this. So if you write a bunch of SQL, you save it, you're great. Make sure to then take the extra step of editing or exiting out of this transformation by clicking the back arrow. Because otherwise, when you log back in, you come back over here, you make a small change, hit save, it's going to overwrite anything else that has been done in the meantime in a different tab. So it's just important, a little versioning control there that is important to keep in mind. So this transformation also has parameters at the job level. So for instance, the times. Start dates, things like that are often in here. So you create a new parameter. You can have it be a private parameter just for this transformation, or public, and then multiple different types. And then, so we often use this in terms of like having a start date. So we're only going to pull from this date forward, things like that. And then, yeah, so here it's enabled. Again, click the buttons to disable it if you don't want it to run. Info button if you have a description for it. So if you execute it now, you're now going to see it pop up in here, and you can click, select, unselect it, and then it'll run while it's going. So a couple of then things. So this, if you ran this here, it would fail because you need a semicolon there. You make sure that it's all proper syntax, everything like that. So that's often a small issue that can come up if you make some edits and you have a select in there that you forgot about. It could cause an error because of that semicolon thing. So this was all about transformations. If you go into maybe an out-of-the-box Celonis connector, there'll be a lot more. Typically of creating the activity table, adding tables, creating views, things like that. So you can create tables as well. One thing I didn't mention, so you can say, let's test my knowledge of SQL here so I can run it right off the bat. So you can create tables, edit tables, alter, all those things work. So now if I were to refresh this, you'd see test 2, same as video test. So pretty much all the functionality that you would have inside of a typical SQL database. There's some things like audits that you can look at for the table sizing, things like that as well that I can get into another video. I hope this was helpful. Transformations are really, really great way to view the data. Typically when we do like a data validation, we'll go studio and then go into the transformations and do some selects, some count selects, things like that, because it's closer, and you can do it without like the output of the transformations is something that you should be testing as well. So I hope this was helpful, and see you in the next video. We'll be talking about data model loads. So have a great day.